Good afternoon and welcome to Art, Culture, and Thing in Between. I'm your host, Rose October, and I'm thanking you for joining us today. As usual, I like to tell you a little bit about the program, especially for those of you who are joining us for the first time. So Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between is a program that features individuals who are gatekeepers of our arts and culture. They are not only performing artists, but also teachers, advocates, and scholars who focus on the preservation of the arts and culture. When arts is mentioned, it is being referred to as the different art forms like visual, applied, and performing arts. Examples of visual arts are painting, sculpting, filming. Examples of applied arts are architecture, as in designing and or building a project, fashion designing, as in the way that the fashion designer works with different types of patterns and fabrics, jewelry designing, as with the way the jewelry designer works with materials such as woods, plastic, metal, silver, gold, sometimes various types of stones. Furniture designing, the way that a furniture designer works with types of woods and the ways that the woods are cut and designed. Then there are performing arts. Those would include examples of music, theater, opera, drama, singing, stand-up comedy, and of course, dance. The middle part of the name of the program is culture, arts, culture. When culture is mentioned, it generally means the way of life for a particular group of people. So for this program, it is inclusive to mean the various groups of individuals that embrace ways of life. In other words, looking at attitudes and behaviors. What is important to note is that as culture is mentioned, I'm really looking at how practices are passed from one generation to another. The last part of the name of the program is Thing in Between, arts, culture, and thing in between. This has to do with life's issues that affect the execution of the arts and cultural practices. This involves both positive and negative experiences that become part of the creative process. Today's guest has the leading title as a performing artist, amongst others. But let me share the bio. Oral Welshman is a Guyanese dancer, choreographer, arts teacher, model, model coach, entrepreneur, and producer who has been in the business of the arts for over 25 years. He was born and raised in Georgetown, Guyana, where he attended St. Gabriel's Nursery and Primary Schools, then Campbellville Secondary School, followed by St. John's College. Following his high school education, he was an apprentice at the tax exit office at the post office. Later, he worked as a clerk at the Attorney General's office, the High Court to the Marshal's Department until 1989, when he migrated from Guyana to Barbados. It is worthy to note that in 1979, Oral's first exposure to dance was through street dancing with a group of friends. He was encouraged to then join the Ghana National School of Dance, and he did this in 1979 under the tutorship of Haitian American Madame Lavinia Williams. While a student at the Ghana National School of Dance, he joined youth division and also was involved in dance classes with Mignon Love. It was there he was introduced to stage performances. Importantly, though, during his employment as an apprentice and a clerk with the Office of the Attorney General, he joined Chronicle Atlantic Symphony Steel and Brass Orchestra, CASPA, and he was a dancer with this company from 1982 to 1988. This afforded him the opportunity to tour Suriname and French Guiana. During the mid-80s, while a member of CASPA, Oral and a few dancers established the dance group New Horizon. This group focused on hip hop, break dance, and disco dance, and allowed Oral his first choreographic experience. As a result, the group entered and won their first competitive venture. This result was that many of such competitions were won and friendships began. Oral is a model. This began in the 80s when he entered a modeling competition, Mr. Super Cool, where he designed his own outfit. This competition was hosted by Pat Dinafrica. Following this competition, he was called to take part in many fashion shows. In 1989, upon Oral's migration to Barbados, he continued his involvement in the arts. He joined a group called Dance National Afrique, and in 1992, as a member of this group, toured 5 states in the United States. In 1994, Dancing Africa Company was formed, and he became the principal choreographer. This company commissioned its works, and one of his choreographies has served as a showpiece for the opening of the Barbados National Football League's season. From 1995 to 2012, Oral worked as a full-time entertainer and resident dancer at the Plantation Garden Theater, along with working at the Beach Resort from 2003 to 2013. As a dancer with Allen Resorts, he was under the tutelage of renowned choreographer Ben Johnson of Bendy Dance Center in Milan, Italy. Oral is also a model coach. This began in 1993 when he was a part of Sparkle Models with Clement Grosette's team in Barbados. In addition, he has worked with many school pageants in preparing the delegates for fashion shows. He has produced pageants that involved the coordination of a team and the theme, as in the storyline development. In 1995, Oral established Blue Horizon Model Agency in Barbados. While he received a contract for the Miss Tropical Paradise Beauty pageant that was hosted in Jamaica. For 14 years, he traveled to Jamaica for this pageant and toured many other countries where he took models who were showcased in national events. In 1999, he founded Uni Ensemble Mother-Daughter Pageant. He managed this pageant until 2013 when he relinquished the responsibilities to another company that is currently running it. In order to enhance his craft in 1997 to 1998, Oral attended Edna Manley College of Visual Arts in Jamaica, where he studied dance and choreography. In 1996, he traveled to Martinique and Guadeloupe, where he attended the choreographer's training program at Salaco of Martinique and the Lena Blue Dance Company of Guadeloupe, respectively. In 2015, Oral began regular travels between Guyana and Barbados, and it was the same year La Ramadi Musical Theater of New York held a production at Pegasus Hotel, where he was the artistic director. In 2016, the same show was held at the Guyana National Cultural Center, while in Guyana as the artistic director of the Musical Theater of New York. He worked with several schools, teaching students about musical theater and dance. This lasted until 2019 when the pandemic hit. In 2018, Oral became the director of the Cinefex Film Photography and Fashion Expo held at the Otter Chang Convention Center in Georgetown, Guyana. In 2019, he was the creative director for the Festival of Arts and Fashion, also in Guyana. Oral's work has not gone unnoticed. While in Barbados from 1994, for 10 years, he won several national awards at the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts. In 2017, for his work over the years with youths in Barbados, he was awarded the DD Entertainment Award for Humanitarianism. This award ceremony was held in Baltimore, USA. More importantly, the print medias in Barbados, such as the Nation newspapers of Barbados and the Advocate, all carried articles about Oral's work over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, before I ask Oral to start the conversation with me, let's take a peek at him. Oral. Welshman.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yeah, you're welcome, welcome. I want to call you youngster, but I don't want to be, out of line.
Okay.
So you went back in time just now, looking at
Back
that.
in time. You threw me all the way back.
What
Yes, it
thoughts were
was.
going through your head though when you saw those pictures in the slideshow?
Wow. It brings back a lot of memories, and you knowing that what you've done so far, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to look back and see what you shared with others and so on.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I can do it again. I will do it again.
Okay, so that's a good place to start. So let's talk about when you were in school in Guyana. Were you ever involved in the arts as a child? I mean, later on, we know that you got into the breakdancing and the stuff, but as a child, at single digits, 5, 6.
Definitely, yes. At St. Gabriel's Primary, what happened is that I started into the school choir, and I remember the nuns doing an audition where they started, choosing kids and how they tested us with our voices, and having us sing a few notes and that kind of stuff. And I remember when I was tested, the nun looked at me with sharp eyes and said, "Yes." So they tested our voices, and I was put on the side where they were choosing, the children and so on. And at the time they were testing the bass voices, the tenor voices, and so on. So this where it all started. I was in the school choir.
So listen, I'm not going to embarrass you and ask you to belt something for us, right?
I still do a bit of singing, I'm a karaoke singer now,
Oh,
I still do a thing.
What's your favorite song? As a karaoke singer?
There are many favorite songs. There are many favorite songs.
I like give me a few lines of one, seeing that you put yourself out there. Sing a few lines of karaoke singer.
Oh my God. There's so many songs that I like. There's so many songs that I like.
One and give us a few lines.
Mhm. Then the two of us, we live no more. You don't even think about that.
I'm trying to remember. Name that song. Da,
Mhm.
da, 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 da.
Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, Ben.
Okay, Ben.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Don't
Yes.
worry, I'm coming back for you. So, aside from
Yes, yes.
being raised in Catholic school, you know, with the nuns pretty much nurturing talent, and that happened a lot because I'm a Catholic
Yes.
girl. I went to St. Anne's nursery, then St.
Mhm.
Angela's primary. You know, it was those two were Roman Catholic schools, and the nuns were very, very present in the way that
Yes,
we
yes.
developed character. They were there. Now,
Okay.
when you completed high school, you worked at agencies that had nothing to do with the arts, at least at that time.
Nothing to do with the art.
Nothing.
Definitely.
Right. So forget what happened after you ventured into the arts full face, full frontal.
Yeah. Yes.
What was your focus in terms of a career when you left high school?
You know what? I really wanted to be a broadcaster. That was my dream, and it still is. It was in the back of my head. To go to broadcasting school, and because I always wanted to sound like the radio announcers. I admired how they sound because we listened to the radio in the afternoons and so on. So that was one of my dreams that I really wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really got into that. Because you end up doing something else and so on. But I really wanted to be a broadcaster.
Well, I want to say I want to say to you, follow your dreams, but I
Mm-hmm.
also want to say to you, don't block your blessings, because if there
Yeah,
are
that's
fruits
true. That's
that
true.
are being placed on your plate, you want to
Yeah,
utilize those
yeah,
fruits well,
mm,
as opposed to saying, I don't like this fruit. I want the
yeah,
one that you can't reach.
yes, yes,
Because I
yes.
think a lot of us wanted to think when we were growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
it turned out circumstances pushed us
Yes,
in different directions, and it's really important to bear in mind how we warm up to those opportunities that are presented to us. And I think you've done an
definitely.
awesome job.
And the funny thing is, what I'd like to say to I was actually thrown into it at one time, coordinating one of the pageants. I remember it was at the Cultural Center in Barbados that year, and I think there was a traffic jam, and the show starts on time, the sharp 8. So the management sent a message to me saying the show has to start on time. I said the MC is not here, and the management said, "Well, you have to do something. The show has to start. It has to be on time." And I got my suit on, and I said, "I've got to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this." And nobody knew that I was not supposed to be the MC for that first 10 minutes.
Go for it. Go for it. We'll talk some more about that though, because
Mm,
I think you have opportunities there, but you're not using them. We'll talk
yeah.
about that just now.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
you were first involved in the arts when you got into street dancing. You
Yes,
mentioned hip
that's true.
hop,
That's true.
break dancing, and the one that had me cracking up was disco dancing.
Disco dancing,
We
right?
want to hear about that in a
Mm-hmm.
minute. But what pushed you into
Mm-hmm.
street dancing, quote unquote? What pushed you?
Okay. There was a group of us friends that grew up in our street in Garner Street. Those guys always like we were into this music thing. There was a set of brothers called the Frasers. They started like a little band, and a little band in the sense of we had our own equipment, not the real stuff, but we had boxes and we made the cymbal out of metal and that kind of stuff, and the drum out of a plastic bucket. And we created this kind of band. And from the band, we started our own little, performances and dancing and stuff. And at that time, the disco music had just come about. We started to hear more about it in the radio and so on. So, we started doing our own stuff. And they said, "Hey, well, you know what? We can do this." And that's where it all began. That's where it all began. Because as the breakdancing and stuff came in, a few of the guys knew stuff, and you know, we had the radio in the street and started to show what they can do. And you know, others joined and say, "Oh yeah, we can try this. We can learn this. We like this," and that's where it all began.
So there's hip hop, there is breakdancing. We know that. We know what I think most of us know what hip hop is, know what breakdancing is. But then
Yeah.
when hip hop disco dancing, I was floored. Then I'm saying, "Bro, you are dating yourself." Tell
Yes.
me about the disco dancing. Were you one of us who were talking, who might have been who's talking like John Travolta? Night
Yeah.
even, night even.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that kicked it off basically because Saturday Night Fever came out,
Uh-huh.
and my school had a concert at the time, a Christmas concert. So I said, my class decided, you know, we got to do something for the Christmas concert. I said, okay, I got to do Saturday Night Fever, and I put two girls together. I had two girls with me, and we choreographed a little quick thing within a week or so, and Saturday Night Fever we did. And since then, the name John Travolta was left with me at school. If I called him John Travolta, what? They asked, what is John Travolta? Why? John Travolta.
So,
And Sharon Blackman was one of the first people to call me John Travolta. She went to the same school.
who is that?
Sharon Blackman.
Oh, she was the first person. Wow. So listen,
Just started.
you mentioned, you had two girls who were part of your dance troupe team group. Was this the group that you guys had the matching costumes with the girls and the boys, or it was something else? Because
these were the people who moved on to the group that we started New Horizon.
okay.
And when we entered other competitions, it started basically at school. So those girls who were interested, we moved from there. And then I started the group and they continued.
Okay.
And that's where I entered the dance competition at Pegasus.
Okay. And I mean, back then, oral dance competition was a big thing. Disco dancing was a big thing. I remember.
People were so interested. It was a lot of groups. There were a lot of groups around town. All the young people were interested in dancing. It was really a big thing, as you said. People were really wanted to do something exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we had Shaft walking around the place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Shaft was the mastermind of dance, kind of, sort of, right? Everybody respected Shaft. Then there was Hafar, Hafar had his own style with dancing.
Yeah.
We're talking people who were known in the street for dancing, just period. Then there were the likes of Michael Diabru,
Michael Diabru and others, yes.
And I remember my brother Magic, and I.
Yes.
He used to disco dance. And like how you got the name John Travolta, my brother did some crazy things. And I was very tiny. He would lift me, swing me up, all kind of thing. And because I'm small, he could do that. And we really made a good couple. But I remember at something, can't remember if it was a performance or the other thing with street dancing and disco dancing is that you're passing someplace, music playing, and you just and you do your thing, and then crowd comes around you, you cheer you. I think it was that situation that somebody said to my brother, somebody did. The man was fascinated. He said, "Damn, Magic." That's how my brother got the name Magic.
Magic. That's good. That's good.
Real fond memories. Now,
fond memories. Yes, it is.
You danced at the Ghana National School of Dance with the Haitian American Madame Lavinia Williams, like so many of us.
Yes, it is.
And then you went on to division with Mignon Law. Oh my gosh, you mentioned Mignon Law's name, and I'm thinking, I can't tell when last I remember hearing her name. And it was with the youth division, Oral, that you said you were introduced to performance for the first time.
Yes, early stage performances, because at the School of Dance, you had to wait an entire year for students to stage.
Right.
But I was having the first experience in a cultural group outside of the dance school. My first experience with a cultural group, and we had a show like every month, and it was at Watercress. There was a show there, and when Mignon had to dance, she did a solo, and then we did a full piece, and that was my first performance. I was shaking. I said, "My God!" And she said, "You got you here to dance. You can dance. You got to learn it. We got to." And we pushed ourselves. Roy Emerson was part of it. Neil Harewood, the two guys who was involved with the school at the time. that was there, and there's some other girls and so on, but that was my first big performance experience. And I never forgot that.
Wow, wow, wow.
Mhm.
Nice. So why don't we take another peek at your work, Oral,
Yes.
and then come back and continue talking.
Okay, no problem at all.
Right. So for those of you who have joined us late, I'm Rose October, sitting with the one and only Oral Welshman, dancer, choreographer, model coach, entrepreneur, and the list goes on. Thank you for joining us. Oral, I
Yes,
have
my
to
dear.
ask you this question, and people
Mhm.
probably pinch you and all of that stuff, maybe pinch your 8-12 pack and all of
It wasn't.
I have to ask you this one because some of us are blessed with good
Yes, yes.
genes. And I'm not talking blue jeans or red jeans or white jeans here.
Yes, I
I'm not
understand. I
talking
understand.
J-E-A-N, I'm talking
Mhm.
G-E-N-E-S. And
Yes.
you wear your age well, and it's obvious that
Thank you.
you
Thank you so much.
continue to get involved with a very strict, regimented self-care.
Definitely. Yeah.
How, and this is one coming from left field, and then I'll go back to where I want to go with asking you some other questions about your work. Um, how much has dance helped you with that?
I think 100%, 100%. Because being involved in the arts as a dancer, rehearsals and training and so on, it takes away all the stress. It's amazing. You may have other problems, throughout life. And when you go to dance class and you go to train or you go to perform, you tend to forget it.
Mhm.
So performances help you. It helps me a lot, going through life and everything,
Yeah,
and having the opportunity to work as a dancer. So
yeah,
being exercising and stuff, it took away the stress of life, the majority of stress of life. So it helped. It's really helpful.
yeah. I'm
Mhm.
sure dancers joining who hear that can relate. I for sure can. So we just
Mhm.
saw some colorful pictures of you and fellow dancers later on in life, and you still look
Mhm.
like young Oral. You know, we saw some young ones, we saw some old ones.
Yes, yes, yes,
Look
yes,
like the
yes.
same Oral. After you
Mhm.
were exposed to dance through the Ghana National Dance Company and Youth Division, you danced with Chronicle, Atlantic
Yes.
Steel, and Brass Orchestra. And I have to throw this one in here because I did say to Rudy Bishop when Rudy was here last year, can't believe I'm saying last year, but in December, Rudy Bishop, the leader of Casbo, was here. I don't know if you remember, there was this subtle rivalry between Casbo and Dance Company, kind of, sort of. Do you remember that? You know?
Yes, I do remember that. I do remember that because I think this problem was if you're involved with a dance company, you're not allowed to be in another group and
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
so that
But
was the situation.
right. But
That
there
was
were
the
times that
situation.
we found time to dance together. I mean, in
Yeah, yes, yes.
NAFCA awards or some awards, I looked at the picture the other day, you know,
Yes,
both of us were on stage at the same time, you full frontal. I can't remember if Neil Hollies was there,
yeah,
Shaq Beckham was
that's
there,
true.
Sandra Primus was
Mhm.
there. Hi, Sandra. I see Verna was on. Verna was there. I can't remember, but that was
Yeah.
the group was a mixture of dance company members.
Yes, a dancers, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and Casbo members.
And that's what we should keep doing. I think that's one of the things we should keep doing, working together with other people.
Mhm.
It shares, shares ideas and so on. That's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So while with Casbo, you traveled a couple of times with them, and
Yes, I did. Yes.
and I mean, back then too, arts was very important, not just
Very,
for,
very important.
you know,
Mhm.
for society, for the community, and I'm wondering,
Mhm.
one of the things that Rudy said was that dancers had their regular job, right? And there was some
Yes.
kind of arrangement between Casbo and
Yeah. Yes.
were allowed.
Sometimes, especially when they were, mhm, when the official at the time.
Say that again. You broke up.
We used to get that. We will be seconded
Mhm.
when there is the national birthday show for Prime Minister coming up.
Uh-huh.
So I was going at the time, and we got letters to our offices from the president's office to be seconded for yourself and so on. And that was very important. We felt important, that we're artists and we're being recognized and so on. But it caused a jealousy in the workplace too because people say, wait, how we get time off for just a bit that thing,
Mhm.
So it created a jealousy thing at the workplaces, but it was fun for us and it made us quite exciting and like made us felt recognized,
Mhm.
and that was a good thing.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
Oh yes. But back then too, just generally, dancers, people used to not like dancers because people would say, oh, they think they're,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And it's only because we knew how to hold our
Yeah.
chest up and shoulders back. That's all.
That's
My goodness, I love
true.
this. I
That's
love
true. You carried yourself
so
well.
after Costco.
You were taught to carry yourself well.
Say that again.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
I know you were taught to carry yourself well. Yes.
Definitely, definitely. And we knew, and forgive me because I am co-signing on being a dancer here. We knew that once we entered a space, there's a particular posture that is assumed, So it's like, I'm here,
Definitely.
it's like your presence really spoke for you. So all sweet memories.
Exactly. So true.
So after
Definitely.
Glasgow, you migrated
Mhm.
to Barbados sometime like shortly after that. Now, what was
Yes.
the catalyst for this move for you to just pick up and go to Barbados? What was happening?
The funny thing was I followed a girlfriend of mine
Okay.
who had moved to Barbados. Right, I followed a girlfriend of mine. She encouraged me to come and so on. So I did go. She went the year before, and I went the year after, and I followed her there, and I got married and so on. So that's where the Barbados thing came about.
Mhm.
But going there for the first time is like difficult because you're losing all your friends. You don't know anyone. It's like a new beginning. It is like kind of tough. Am I doing the right thing? But I held in there, and it worked.
Mhm. Mhm.
It
And
worked.
and that's where my head was going, how you just answered how difficult it was to start again and start in a strange country.
Yes. So that would be kind of difficult, for a new person going into a new area and trying to fit in.
Mhm.
So the arts helped me with that.
Good. So
Yeah.
then how did your foundational years in dance slash art slash theater, how did all of
Yes.
these things play in to your growth as an artist in Barbados?
What I would say, the good thing was that I've had the quality of training I had in Guyana, because after Lavina Williams, I continued with Lerardo Lastra. I don't know if you remember Lastra.
Yes.
Gerardo Lastra,
What?
was a Cuban director that we had.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. So we learned the Cuban technique and so on. So it was different all the market technique that we learned here, and that other countries are doing. So going with that technique, it helped me. And when I joined the groups that I joined, you know, I was at a particular level. So it was easier to move on and to catch up with whatever is going on at the time.
Okay. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
you attended Edna Manley College of Visual Arts
Mm-hmm.
in Jamaica, in the West Indies, where you studied dance
Yes.
and choreography. In
And
addition,
choreography, yes.
in
Mm-hmm.
addition, you traveled to Martinique and Guadeloupe for the choreographers training
Yes.
program at Salaco of Martinique and the
Yes. Mm.
Liverpool Dance Company, right? Respectively. How different was the
Mm-hmm.
experience in Jamaica from Martinique and Guadeloupe?
Uh-huh. They were both difficult, but the funny thing about or the great thing about Martinique and Guadeloupe is quite it never left my memory. It's one of my most memorable, I should say, training experiences. Um, because I was the only representative from Barbados who went to that. I thought it was just a workshop, a workshop training, a little small thing with a couple of people, thinking in your own mind, not knowing it was sponsored by the French government and dancers attended from across Europe. Across Europe. I was the only person from this part of the Caribbean, and a lady from Suriname. I never forget her. A lady from Suriname was the only other person from South America area. There were dancers from Martinique, Guadeloupe, France, Canada, the USA, London, and all of those dancers that came to that training workshop. They were involved in different companies, and they were all professional dancers. And at the time, I was not dancing full time, so I was just a little, going to have a little 2 shows a week, that kind of thing, not dancing every night at that level. So they were trained company members, and so the levels were really, really higher. And the choreographer was an American who lived in France, who did our training and stuff. But the experience was extraordinary, extraordinary. We trained every day from 9 to 5, and after the first few days, Rose, after the first 4 days, I was broken up in pain. I went and I buy Benji, all kind of rubbing things, all the old time rubbing things, from Guyana. I had to get bandages for my knees, muscle sore. I was in a mess. I was in a mess those first 4 days because this training was strenuous and extremely hard. And the level of choreographies, those guys were doing 7 and 8 and 9 pirouettes. I could have maybe do 2 or 3. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Jump and barrel turns and the energy. So the first few days training, I was in pain. I buy all kind of thing, medication, this rubs, that rubs, that rubs. I said, you know what? I got to deal with it. Because myself and another guy from Guadeloupe, he came from another cultural group. Two of us were, I would say, were the lowest of dancers. Were the lowest of dancers. You can dance, yes, but you got this great power and great extensions, and to that level, they were at the other level, at the next level that we wanted to be. So I said, you know what, this can't have to be. I gotta get with it. So after rehearsals, I did my own classes in the hotel room. After classes, I did my own classes. I did my own stretches. I soaked in the bathtub, and I tried to catch up on the things that I learned the day. On the night, so the next day, I must be better, that kind of thing. So that's one of the most important, things in the beginning. The other thing was all of those dancers were well off. When I say well off, everybody as they arrived at the airport, what I missed a bit too. We were met by there were people who met us from the cultural organization and the Ministry of Culture there, had our names because they were speaking French. I barely knew a little bit of French at the time, you know.
Okay.
So you'd have your name on a placard and they welcome you and stuff. And as the other dancers arrived, people were asking, where can I rent a car? You know, like rent a car. You know what I'm saying? Because they all had gold cards. They were doctors' children and ministers' children and, you know, children of ambassadors. So they were all wealthy kids, young people, you know, living at a certain level. And I accustomed to a bicycle, you know, kind of a bicycle. So I was like, it was like kind of shocking, right? Because we never had that kind of experience. So I said, okay, nice, great. So, but everybody was very friendly, and we cared about each other, and we exchanged, you know, our numbers and the kind of stuff. And another good thing about that whole training production was the dancers were paid for classes. We were paid to take the classes. We had a stipend for food, and for the performances as well, we were paid for the performances. So you know your boy Earl Welshman come from Guyana. So we little suitcase we go with and buy a fresh set of clothes. Come, you know French clothes are like fresh set of clothes, products, skincare products, the work, dance shoes, dance clothes. It was an experience of a lifetime. I would never forget that.
Wow.
I would never forget that. And when we performed in and after the first 3 weeks, then the choreographer he was saying oh, Mr. Welshman, you're doing fine, you're picking up well. And I said, yes, I gotta get this right, you know, to myself. And but another challenge I had to, because he was teaching in French, and you gotta listen, he's counting in French, you gotta listen what he's saying in French. And sometimes I would disturb him saying that excuse me, sir, I am not very good at French. Could you, you know, relate in English a few times? He said, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I will try to help you, you know. So he did teach some of his teaching in English to help me, you know, with my English. And some other students were saying that, you know, it's good for them too, because, you know, they might not be so good in the other language. But it wasn't me alone. But that was a challenge, and I did it, and I ended up. I remember ending up in the paper, the French newspaper. Yes.
Wow.
I was in a men. I was put in a men's piece. We did a men choreography. It was about 9 men, and myself and the guy from Guadeloupe were the shortest of guys, so we had to be in front. So the choreographer said, not because you're short, you didn't keep going to the back. You're in front, so you got to get it right. You know, and all them boys spin, jump, and roll really good. So you got to get it right. I never stretched so much. Roll, I stretched till I overstretched. I stretched in the night, stretched in the day, stretched in the morning, went early to the classes, had breakfast early, went to the studio early, an hour before to warm up, because it cannot be stiff. Yeah. It was beautiful. It was great. So
yeah, but you know, overall,
when I left there.
No, go ahead. Tell me when you left there.
Yeah, go ahead. When I left there, it was a totally different ball game. My thoughts of dance was at a different level, because I've experienced the level of training, the level of choreography, the level of costuming, the lighting, the sound, the stage work. It was like millions of dollars were spent in that production. And the good thing is, because it was sponsored by the French government, all of our costume came from Paris. All. The choreographer had an assistant and a costume person. They took all of her measurements, and they had a meeting and decided what the costumes are for the various pieces. And they took, I think, 2 days, and they flew to Paris, bought all those costumes. It was, I've never seen costumes that was so great. I was like, it's like an awe, you know? I said, wow, this is the real deal. This is the real thing. This is the real thing. So it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. And the media on the nights of the shows and the performances, there were media from around the world. There were media from all the French countries came. There were media from Paris. There was media from London. There were cameras and, you know, interviewing in the dressing room backstage. I was actually in the newspaper. I was being made up by one of the French girls, right? They were sitting on a table, and some photographer took the picture while I was being, they were getting me ready and stuff. And for the piece that we were doing, I did pictures, on the front page. I was wow. Everybody was like, wow, Welshman, you're in the front page. You're this. And the only bad thing is that I don't have those clippings now with me, because it was so long ago.
Yeah. A couple of things.
But I think
I listened to your story, and it's fascinating. And I have to say, many lookers on, even supporters or individual supporters, right? They might look on as you go through your routine in prep for shows, and many see lights, camera, and action, and figure you just got
the final picture.
yes, and really don't understand the hard work on the back end that
Definitely
have to put in. As much as I love that, I wish that there was somebody there, a guide, a coach, who would have said, as a child, be aware of the possibilities for injuries. Because what I heard growing up as a child dancer was that you also have to look at something else to do, just in case if dance does not work out. That's the frame it was put in, but not in the context of dance is athletics. You're likely, you're likely to break a bone, strain muscle, develop problems in your back and your arm and your knee and all of that. Nobody said that, so we did not get the full scope of what it involved in terms of being but it's a lot of work, and I'm glad to hear the work that you put in. But I want to ask you one more question before I ask you a related but different question. How did you know about this particular training? Who turned you onto it?
Oh, okay. The thing was because there were several male dancers in the group, and I was just being like appointed as a choreographer with Dance National Lacquerie.
Okay.
And Lena Blue, the same Lena Blue from Guadeloupe, she called, because she came to Barbados in maybe prior years and did workshops and stuff. So she called the director from the group, and she said, okay, there's a dance training workshop. We need a dancer from your group to come. And he looked around, and it was a class. I was teaching the class that afternoon, and he called me. He said, oh, you want to go to Guadeloupe for a workshop? Just like that, quick and sharp. I said, I don't mind. I said, that sounds good. I said, yes, why not? He said, okay. So I just thinking it's a little small thing, that's a little dance workshop. You're going to learn a few things and so, and he said, okay, we'll send you. So I was fortunate to be the only person to go from Barbados and representing Barbados. And, it was like, okay, it's only me, and okay, it's a bigger thing than I really thought it was. And it's so well represented, and it's so well sponsored and everything. It's like, wow. And the funny, what did we even say, Rose? We stayed at the finest of hotels. The finest of hotels on the 30-something floor. I remember I was, and my room was like big like a flat, with the Gucci or whatever it was, and everything. Oh,
jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi. The full works. It works. Everything. And as a Caribbean guy too, as I mentioned that, we were giving our own money just like to buy your food and stuff because people ate differently. Yeah. My battery is going down. My battery is going down. It's unbelievable. I have to try to get charged. So, I saved my money eating caravans outside, but we get restaurants and stuff like that, So we have, a Caribbean guy, you know how to save and cut back and save some of your money. So that is very, very important.
Okay.
I think I have to slip and get my charger. I hear my phone being pretty.
Okay. You do that while I talk a little bit more about you and come right back. and then we'll probably take a break. So it's okay. So for those of you who joined us
Okay
late,
then.
I'm sitting, go ahead, Oral. I'm sitting with Oral Welchman, and if you missed what I said about him earlier in his bio, dancer, choreographer, model, model coach, entrepreneur. I mean, these are just some of the hats, metaphorically speaking, that he wears, and he does wear hats in real life, as we will see in some of his pictures later on. What we just talked about was while in Barbados for him, how he got an opportunity to study in Martinique and Guadeloupe, with some of the finest choreographers and the strenuous trainings that were involved. He also shared with us how he was able to rise above because he still somebody, a young man from a small island who's going just to experience a small training group. And when he got there, there were so many established and professional dancers from around the world that he had a lot of catching up to do, which he was able to do. Um, when Oral comes back, I'll ask him about one of his pieces that was commissioned by Dance Africa Company, which was a company he became the principal choreographer for. And that being a part of that company gave him the opportunity to showcase one of his pieces for Barbados National Football League season. So I'll ask him to tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll ask him to tell us some about his involvement as a full-time entertainer and resident dancer with Plantation Garden Theater and Island Beach Resort in Barbados, where he lived for a few years before returning to Guyana. So for those of you who joined late, I'm Rose October on Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between. Sammy, I will ask you now to play the next clip, and then we'll come back and continue chatting with Oral. So Oral, let me ask you this, and then we'll come back
Yeah.
to a piece of the choreography. You formed
Yeah.
Dance Africa Company and became the principal choreographer. The company commissioned you
Yes.
once, and one of your choreographies has served as the showpiece for the opening of one of Barbados's National Football League seasons. Tell us about this experience.
Yes. Oh, it was actually an African piece. It was a global that year. It's a piece called Celebration of Birth. Celebration of Birth was about a child that was born in a village. And the child was, what I should say, the child was presented to the leaders as the gift child of a family. So that's what the choreography was about. It was called Celebration of Birth. So it was celebrating the birth of a child in the village.
Now,
And it was a beautiful thing.
do you have any idea though why the Barbados National Football League wanted that? What did they see in that to have it showcased?
Not exactly. I think they won because it was a global piece. What they normally do every year for the national football season, they would choose one of the choreographers, the outstanding choreographers who won, awards, and they would use their pieces or a piece from them. So that year, my piece was chosen for the national football season opening.
Okay. And you were full-time. Go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a
Go ahead. What I said, yes. We had to. I had to add more dancers to it because of the space that we had to use for the national football season. It was a wider stage So and it was an extended stage, I should say, and that's where we use more dancers.
Okay.
We added dancers into the piece, yes.
How many dancers you had?
Originally, I think this was about 12, 14,
Mm-hmm.
and we added about 6 more.
Okay.
Make the sections bigger, to
Yeah,
make the sections bigger.
that was a good side. True. Now you were a full-time entertainer and resident dancer at the Plantation Garden Theater and Almond Reed
Yeah.
Beach Resort, and
Yes.
you even got to study with the renowned choreographer Ben Johnson of Bendy Dance Center of Milan, Italy. And I'm
Yes.
thinking this must have been a thrill. But how was it to be
Mhm.
working full time doing something that you love and then
That
get
that was
so
that was an experience of a lifetime, an experience of a lifetime. But first, when I started at the plantation, um, when I auditioned at the plantation, they wanted males fill in. Uh, Plantation was just 2 nights per week. So at that time, I was working in the day, day full time. Full time, I had a day job at full time. So working 2 nights per week as a dancer, and then we rehearse on Mondays in the evening. What our pieces we would do and stuff for that production for that show. The Plantation Dinner Show, we had 2 shows. We had a show that we used to do on Wednesday, and we had an underwater show. Underwater show was on Saturdays. The Wednesday and Saturdays, the 2 nights shows. So I did the Plantation a couple of years before I started the Almond Beach Resort. How the Almond Beach Resort came about? The director, the entertainment manager from the Almond Beach Resort, went to the Plantation show. Apparently, um, he took guests, visitors from that hotel to see another show. I mean, maybe friends of his or whatever. I'm not sure. But and then he saw me perform at the Plantation. So when they needed, there was an audition. They needed another male. As I went to meet him, he said, "You don't have to audition." I said, "You haven't seen me dance." He said, "I'm saying you don't have to audition. I saw you up to last night. Just fill up these forms, please, and go straight to accounts department." And I was like, "Okay, sir, thank you so much." Just like that. Just like that. I had no audition.
wow. Wow. That is nice. That is nice. Sam, let's play the clip of the children's choreography. Lovely piece by those
Yes,
children.
yes, yes.
I commend you. I commend Sandra Primus. I commend Verna Walcott White. I commend Linda Griffith. All of you who had the energy to work with the younger ones.
Work with children. Work.
Yes. I
You
mean,
know,
I don't mind doing it, but it's not my first choice. if I'm to be honest.
Yes, yes.
No,
It's kind of difficult to
leave
watch
those
kids, right?
kind
Yeah.
the teenagers. Give me the teenagers. I'll roll with those.
Right, right.
But, awesome job.
There's something special about me with children.
All right,
I just get over them.
Don't tell me. We'll get to that just now.
Okay.
We'll get to that. So you have done a lot of work, Oral, with children in Guyana
Yes.
and Barbados.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, how did you begin working with children? What, when, how did it happen for you the first time?
The first time I started in the 80s, actually, when I had the New Horizon dancers. I started a group called the New Horizon Dancers in the 80s in Guyana, and we had the hip hop guys, the older guys, and I started taking some children because our class was in Campbellville. That is upstairs where Casbo was. Same area the Casbo Dance Company performed, rehearsed. I started the classes there with the children of the neighborhood, just around the area. They would come and watch the adults, with the playing around and stuff. So I said, you can start a class with the kids. And they came over and this work started. And then I entered my junior children in the NIFCA, Guyana's festival.
For the arts.
Right? Mm-hmm. No, Guy Festa, what am I calling NIFCA? NIFCA's Barbados. Guy Festa's Guyana. And we had Guy Festa at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I first entered my kids. The funny thing is, what I used to do with my children, I never taught my children baby steps. I couldn't take this little plinky, tinky, tinky, linky, linky, tinky, thing, and 2 little flowers holding your hand. You know what I'm saying? That was never my way of teaching children. I would teach the same thing that we learned in class: first position, second position, arms position, plies, releves, the posture, the everything.
Mm-hmm.
Get it, and then I realized they were picking up on the dance discipline, getting them disciplined as dancers. Was the first thing. And I said, okay, I'm going to enter them into Guy Festa. I remember doing a piece, and it's a piece. I worked, and the funny thing is, one of those same little girls at that time, I work with her now as an adult.
Wow.
She does ballroom classes with me. I made how funny. Oh, like this funny, yeah. I did Girls Want to Have Fun. That's the same choreography. I remember, I'll never forget that song. And every time I hear it over the radio, it's Girls Want to Have Fun. Oh, girls, you want to have fun. I think it was, I'm not sure it's Donna Summer or sang that song. I think so. Girls Want to Have Fun. So I did that piece with about 7 or 8 little girls from Campbellville area. Girls Want to Have Fun for NIFCA. For Guy Festa, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And they got an award. But what I was told by some of the choreographers and directors of NIFCA, who was in charge of dance,
Guy Festa.
dear friends of mine,
Guy Festa.
Guy Festa, dear friends of mine who are in charge of dance, that I'm teaching the children too much of adults move. Those movements are movements for adults. That's not children movements. I was like, really? They're not doing anything vulgar, winding up, or anything like that.
Yeah.
They were dance moves. They were hip movements, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and turning and everything like that. It's dance movements, steps that can work for the choreography. Push turns and all kinds of adults doing push turns. How do you get children learn push turns? Push turn, push and turn and push and turn. And the children got it. See, if they got it, I give them the step. They can do it. So
yeah.
I was told, why are you giving those children those adult movements? Children should be doing that. I said, okay. And I took my criticism there, quietly, and I moved on. But I always kept teaching children the highest level they can go.
Yeah.
So that was my first piece.
Mm-hmm.
Girls Want to Have Fun at Guy Festa.
Yeah. Wow.
So, girls in the world. Mm-hmm.
So you continued on this journey of working with children, and you went to Barbados, based on what we've talked about. And you also did work with children in Barbados?
Yes. I started at a school that's in the 90s, because being involved in Dance in Africa, the director for Dancing Africa, she was an educator. she resigned now. She was an educator at a school called Erdison Primary, and they had a dance group there. So being the choreographer for Dancing Africa, she started a program, and she said, "Oh, we need you at the school to program, teaching the children to find blah blah blah." So I said, "Okay, fine."
Mhm.
So I had classes 3 times a week, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and those classes were from 2:30 to 3:30. They shifted it to the late period of classes, so it wouldn't affect the school
Cool.
work.
Yeah.
So those classes started at 2:30, and the parents should pick them up at 3:30. Because sometimes children are still playing, and for late hours until parents arrive anyway. So we had to prepare a dance piece for the school's graduation, and I had to come up with something. At that time, I had over 30 children from class 1, some from class 1, some from class 2, some from what we call Big ABC. They call it, they have another name for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had in all 30. So I had some other assistants from Dancing Africa assisting me teaching and stuff. So I said, you know what? I have to do a piece with all these children, and I'm going to break it up in parts, and we're going to work this thing out. What I'm going to do. So I sat down one evening to myself, and I said, I'm going to do a piece relating to the nursery rhymes, right? Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf, the three little pigs,
Mm-hmm.
the forest, those things. And I put it together in a whole story. I contacted another lady from a ballet school, and I spoke to her. I said, I want some music. I want to do like a ballet with these kids, long, a nice storyline. She said, okay, Oral, I'm going to give you some music. You're going to come and listen to, I have a lot of music. I'm going to lend you some cassettes, and you're going to go through it and see what you can work with. And she did that, and I got a lovely bit of music. And it was a bit of music, a soundtrack from some kind of movie or something, worked perfectly. And I started the whole Red Riding Hood story. Started Red Riding Hood going to the forest. So I had kids who were the forest, kids who were so they had the forest choreography, the flower choreography, the wolf had a piece of dancing for himself. Red Riding Hood had a piece of thing for herself. So all these little characters put in a whole ballet.
Right.
Unbelievable. So I did piece by piece of choreography piece. And when I put it together, teachers were like amazed. How could you do all of this work with these kids? Even people who taught, all the teachers who taught little kids at the national school in Barbados, at the ballet schools and stuff, couldn't believe how Oral Welshman alone got these little kids to work. So I worked with them slowly, took my time, get to know them, and did a wonderful piece.
It's a.
And then we sent that same piece to the festival.
Yeah, it's again. I have to commend
30 children.
I have to commend you, Oral. It's a gift, and you have to have that passion there to really. And I can monkey around. I can become a child. I got tons of nieces and nephews, but I cannot do that work. So again, for those of you who have the knack for bringing out the best in children, thank you. Now, how would you? This is a ticklish one. Oh, you wanted to say something, and then I have.
Yes, what I want to say. One of my ways in getting around that, I had other teachers dealing with the disciplinary side of the children, making sure they're listening, making sure they're behaving, and making sure they're focusing on the class while I'm just teaching. And I'm not, so they wouldn't hate me. They got no, oh, I don't like sorry, he's barking, he's quarrel. So just teaching.
Yeah.
I would give a little scolding and stuff like that. I said, well, my dear, if you don't learn the steps by the next 2 days, you'll be thrown out. I'm going to put that little girl who knows it well. So you have to learn your steps and focus on the rehearsal, else out you go. Very nicely. And so, okay, sir, I got to get it. Got her busy. So that was one of the ways I tried to make sure that the children were disciplined and focusing on the class. All the teachers dealing with that part, and I just teaching.
That's a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would you compare?
Yes.
I'm preparing you. This is a ticklish question now.
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare working with children in Guyana
Mhm.
versus working with children in Barbados, if there is a comparison?
Not really, it's the same thing because children are children. Children are children, they behave a certain way. You have to keep them focused and all of that. So, but what I did, one of the things that we did in Guyana too, when we auditioned the children, we first took children who had dance experience, who were going to the dance school, who were, going to the National School of Dance, who had some kind of training back, a little bit of training at church or the church groups or at the dance school or wherever they did something. So that's what we did first. We auditioned kids who had dance experience and allowed, give them little thing to do and
Mhm.
see what they could do. Said, okay, yes, you can do something, yes, So that is one of the things I did before
Mhm.
we choose the team of children that we're going to continue working with for whatever purpose.
But so let me ask you this, based on what you just said there. So what
Yes.
happens to that child then
Mm-hmm.
who has never had a dance class? Hear me out.
Yes.
Has
Mm-hmm.
no dance experience, but
Mm-hmm.
the child
Mm-hmm.
has rhythm that nobody knows
Definitely.
can.
Okay. I I still took those children who never had experience. I
Okay,
just did the children with some experience first,
okay,
and those who really wanted to do it
okay.
and had that little flair in their hearts who want to dance. I said, yes, okay, let me see why you do something. And I see some girls cartwheel and spin and turn and try so hard. I said, you got the spirit, you're gonna get it, you get it done. You're gonna get it done. I remember we had and it was kind of touching for me at Winford Garden Primary School here in Georgetown. We had to dance for the national festival that they have in Mashimani, but they only wanted 12 or 15 children in a group. They said, but this big culture center stage, why only 12 children? It is not fair. If you have 14 or 15, you got to drop children out because the competition is only allowing so much. That was that's the only kind of ticklish part thing I don't like.
Okay.
Because you have to cut kids who are good
Mhm.
because it's only a certain amount that they're allowed,
Yeah.
for the competition or whatever.
You mentioned what would have been a satisfying experience in doing the ballet with the forest. I want to ask
Mm-hmm.
you, aside from having to cut children from choreography based on guidelines for competitions, for dance competitions for children, what has been
Mm-hmm.
your most challenging experience in choreographing for children?
Space to rehearse, a proper rehearsal space. Most of the schools that I've worked with, you got to rehearse in the yard, or it's not conducive. And if you're allowed to, and if you want to get proper space to rehearse, I had to talk to the head teacher once and said, you know what, the children can't rehearse in that yard. It's distracting. When school is over, children are passing, people stopping to watch, they cannot focus. We need a proper space to rehearse. So the headmistress once decided to use, one of the floors, classroom space, but I have to take it myself to remove all the benches, make
Yeah,
sure that space is cleaned, and to put all the benches back. And it's kind of strenuous, but because of the love of it, I would do it
yeah.
because I want my children to have that nice space. They're comfortable, they're quiet, they're not disturbed, and that's very, very important.
Oral, you
So
mentioned that, and I just had flashback to when I was 9 years old, when I started dancing with teacher
Mhm,
Stella Walcott. I always got to invoke teacher Stella Walcott
mhm,
and Big Daphne Rogers, my other mothers.
mhm,
When I started dancing with teacher Stella at St. Angela's Primary School, we went through the same exact
uh-huh.
thing. There was no space to
Yes.
dance. We had to clear away the furniture to dance. And then
Mhm,
it was our responsibility to put the furniture back. And then if we were in the yard
mhm.
dancing, the one good thing I enjoyed though, although it was distracting with dancing in the yard, was that you had a little audience. So you get to find
Yes, yes.
thing and you try to
Mhm.
you try to out dance you
Some of the children like that. Some of the children like the thing and the people watching. But others, it is distracting for others. Some other girls, some children need quietness to focus. But the span of attention span is different for every child.
definitely.
So that's very important.
Wow.
Hmm.
Oh, loving it, loving it, loving it. For those of you who joined us late, I'm Rose October on Art, Culture, and Thing in Between. I'm sitting with our guest today, Oral Welshman, dancer, choreographer, model coach, entrepreneur, and the list goes on. Let's take a peek at Oral's work and then come back and continue the discussion. So I'm sitting with Oral Welshman, as mentioned earlier, and as the flyer said, and the program Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between is live on YouTube. Please go like, subscribe to the page, and there is a website, roseoctober.com. So please visit. Oral, I love that piece of music. Ding, 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 ding. I wanted to get up
Yes.
that I don't have.
Yes. It's a fantastic good music. Fantastic good music.
Oh man, it feels like dance music to me. I, can't help myself. It just
Yeah.
feels like that
Yeah.
music. So you have done your share of modeling, which we will get into later on.
Yeah.
But we just watched this clip of your work as a
Yeah.
model coach. How did you get into uh, model coaching? How did you get into this?
First, I was asked to enter a male competition in Guyana many years ago. It was called Mr. Super Cool, and it was held by a lady called Pat de Nobrega. She had an organization, and she did female pageants and male pageants. Miss Ebony, Miss Ebony, and that particular year, I was actually assisting her as a choreographer, working with the girls from Miss Ebony pageant, and she came up with the having a competition for guys. And she said, "Oh, you should enter." I said, "Of course, why not?" And this is where I entered first. And my first male competition. It was Mr. Super Cool, and it was about 18 guys that entered
18.
that competition.
Wow. No.
But 18.
Wow. Now, how did you get into model coaching?
Well, what should I say? After being involved in fashion and modeling and stuff, I was approached by, I think, a tutor or teacher from one of the high schools, the high schools in Guyana, where there was a competition coming up, and she wanted me to help one of the girls. Just one, everybody had their own person practicing them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a little girl. It was a junior competition. I think it was St. Rose's High School had a pageant, seniors and juniors. So the junior girl, that's the girl, one of the girls in the junior competition. I had the opportunity in training her, teaching her turns, her walk, and everything, and she won. And that's where it all kicked off into this coaching and training and stuff like that. And how I did this very well, I should say. I use my dance training, the same way you would train dancers, working on your posture, your stride, and your turn and spotting and so forth. I put that type of training into modeling,
Mhm.
and it worked very, very well.
Mhm. You know, that's what I think we saw the elements of choreography in that piece that we watched just
Mm-hmm.
now. I mean, the precision with timing to music, movement, you know, in time
Yes.
to move
Mm-hmm.
to the music, the precision of turns, the precision of posing, you know, it was a choreography in itself.
Coordination, definitely. Yes, 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 yes.
And you
Mm-hmm.
saw that the models in training were enjoying themselves because I think with putting the elements of choreography into model coaching, it gives the models a sense of confidence because they will learn the beats of the music, one. Two,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
they're counting, right? So they know when to do this,
Yeah,
when to do
yeah.
that, when the other.
Mm-hmm. And
But
the coordinating with others.
yeah, but as I'm talking to you, I know that there are some designers and
Mm-hmm.
model trainers, coaches who feel that models should not walk to the music because it takes away from the display of the clothing. They shouldn't pose a lot. They shouldn't this. I mean, different people have different strategies that they use and techniques.
Strategy. That's so true. That's so true. I think one of the things are that if you are doing a fashion show, it's the type of fashion show you're doing. What type of fashion show you're doing? If you're doing a fashion production, it's different, and you can't put music that's too fast, that's too dancey, as you might say. It must be able, you must be able to flow with it, and the music must be that type of a rhythm that it would not take away from the clothing, from the models, and it should add to it.
Mhm,
You should have that production feeling as you watch them move,
mhm,
right? And that's one of the things I applied every show and every production I did. Even in fashion shows, whatever I do, if I have an opening scene, it has to be production type of thing. You know, you have to have choreography. You have to be able to walk to the music. You choose music that is nicely balanced, not too fast,
mhm.
and has taste, right? So it resonates in the person that's listening and who's watching. They're seeing a production, although it's just a fashion show. You know, and they're they must be impressed. Mm-hmm.
So I'll challenge you there on taste because your taste might be
Mm-hmm.
different from mine. You know, so I might be a member of the audience thinking, what is he thinking with this piece of music?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Taste. Uh,
when you say taste,
uh,
that's what you're saying. I know what you're saying when you say taste, you know, but I think
yes, yes, yes.
what's important is that you know your audience too. I think that's important,
Yes, yeah.
you
Mm.
know, and I get the piece that you're talking about in terms of resonating with that resonates with taste. Now,
Mm.
what are some of the duties of a model coach? Are you involved in choosing a girl type? You know, are you involved in what kinds of designs will be displayed, could be displayed, given that the way that you work, you're looking at
Okay,
the foundation of choreography.
yeah, I get what you're saying. These days, a lot of what's happening now is not only tall, thin models are being used in fashion shows. They're working with girls, regular-looking people,
Mhm,
girls of all sizes. But those girls of all sizes still need to have a good posture. They still need to be able to walk well. They still need able to be elegant. All those little things. So they have to go through some kind of training.
mhm,
Not because you're pretty, you just walk people off the road. And I see a lot of people do that, have fashion shows. Oh, my neighbor daughter, she's nice looking, you know. And really,
mhm,
I got to show it. And designers just bringing anybody. I said, no, that's not how I work. If you're doing a show and you're having girls in the show, audition the girls. The girls must look a certain way. They must be able to walk a certain way. They have a certain type of poise and elegance and grace. It has to have that element to make your piece look outstanding.
yeah.
Saying that to say this, If you, the designer, just have a piece of painted cloth and I throw that over that model, the audience, anyone in the audience must want to buy it. Why? Because she looks elegant, she's graceful, she has that flowing beauty, and
Mhm.
coming back to taste, as you say, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just can't throw a piece of cloth on anybody that looks horrible and it sells. Impossible.
So what I'm also hearing you say, beauty is not just in the face.
It's
It's
not in the face, not in the
it's
face.
portment, it's in everything else that this individual
Exactly. Exactly, exactly, exactly. And the funny thing is, everybody has it. A lot of people have it, but you have to find it in that person. They need to understand what you, the producer, the choreographer, is looking for, and tell the person, you know what, you can do this, you can do that. I can see, and there's some girls and guys, I can watch them and say, wow, this person makes a great person, great personality on the stage, great model on the stage.
Mhm, mhm.
And I've chosen people and worked with people who were nothing and made them something, made
So
them steppers.
so
And
it's
here's the example: made them steppers.
yeah.
The mother-daughter pageant that I do with Barbados.
Don't go there yet. Don't go
Yeah.
there just now. Don't go there yet.
Okay.
We will
Right.
go there
Right.
just now. But let me ask you this.
Hmm.
As
Yes.
a model coach, you've worked with both males and females.
Both male and female. Yes. Mm.
Now, how different is it working with males as opposed to females as a model coach, though?
I don't know. Okay. You just gotta understand. You gotta explain to the guys. They have to be themselves. Be yourself. Walk naturally first. Let me see how you walk. You can't walk. A lot of guys generally we walk bad. Walk bad, walk with your foot open. The bad boy thing is swinging, it's shaking all over your body. I said no. If you're on stage and you are selling a simple T-shirt and the jeans you're wearing, you can't be all over the place. You must be able to walk properly. You must be able to walk on a straight line. Your posture must be upright. Your back can't be rounded. You can't be looking to the floor. You should be looking straight ahead, looking towards the camera. Imagine the picture being taken. You're in front of the camera. You have to look ahead. Look at, see the camera. The person needs to see your face. So you can't be looking down and shy and walking around. That kind of thing. So these are the basic things. So you see them walk normally, and then you start correcting. Okay, don't let your foot open so wide. Think about walking more straight in a straight line. And there's several guys I work with say, "B, I didn't know this is so serious. This is I really walk back through. I don't look so
Yeah.
good. I don't catch myself. I was never looking at it this way.
Mhm.
Holding your chest in the air, holding your chest up, controlling the arms, so the arms flying all over the place. So these are the little things you have to get as a model. And when you learn the basic things, mm-hmm.
So I'm throwing
Yes,
another challenge at you.
yes, yes,
And it's very conversational, so as I use the word challenge.
yeah.
And let's say you're selling a piece of something. I don't know. Let's say the brand is Bad Boys, right?
Yes.
Let's say the brand is
Mm,
Bad Boys, right?
mm,
And you found a nice piece of catchy music
mm.
that has the emphasis of a bass drum, right?
Yes. Mm.
And I'm going with you here, and you're gonna laugh at me
Yes,
because
yes,
if you were talking,
yes,
I
yes.
was
Yeah,
choreographing this whole
I got
this whole
something to back up there. I got something to back you up that. I have something to
right.
back you up on that.
I
Yeah.
was I was
Mm,
choreographing this whole fashion show for Bad Boys, and I am
mm,
thinking that because the brand is Bad Boys, our traditional
mm,
boys are not in the audience. So
mm,
the men and boys that you're talking about who should be walking straight with one foot in front of the other, don't swing your arms and all of that, my Bad Boys
mm,
crew in the audience, they'd be thinking, who craziness is this? So I come back to,
mm.
because in doing something like that,
Yes.
right, Rose
Mm.
October with her crazy imagination, she is thinking,
Yes, yes.
okay, I want you to have a lean on your right side. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And you give me a little
Yes, yes.
drop as you step. Something.
Yes, yes.
I get you. I get you.
Good, good.
And
Yeah.
bringing in here though, Oral, is
Yeah.
also knowing your audience. Again, and
Definitely,
some
definitely.
designers might be in disagreement with me. I mean, I've worked with contestants and candidates in pageants also, and sometimes you may have a visual of how the bevy of young ladies should look, but they might be that one that struggles, and you may have to tweak a little bit for the group so that everybody, would look uniform as a group. But I like, I like what you said. I just had to throw my little fantasy out there about the bad boy,
Yes. Funny as you just said the one that might not be doing so well. I remember a fashion show I was doing 2019, and they had a particular girl. She had two left feet, and the other girls would always mimic about her. Not very loud, but when you hear things, right? And the girl would never catch properly. She's not walking properly. Her weight is on the wrong side. Her weight is not balanced. She's slightly twisted. She had a spine problem.
Okay.
So I had to work with her on getting that posture straight, developing that posture, understanding her problem. I saying to her, everybody's different. You have to understand what your problem is, and you have to work on it. You couldn't believe that girl is one of the most outstanding girls at the end of the whole training.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of that 4 months passed. She was determined, and the other girls, when they auditioned and they saw her and stuff like that, so she has potential. We give her a break. Don't get rid of her yet.
Yeah.
Give her some time. Let her rehearse, and and so on. That girl was outstanding. Same thing with the guys. So they know they have to be masculine. You have to be imposing and stuff. The male poses are different from the female poses. The male poses have to be masculine. You get a drop on the shoulder. The poses according to what you're doing. I did a reggae piece. The designer was putting out camouflages and the reggae look, the whole Jamaican reggae look, for a show I did last year. And I said, wow, okay. And I found a nice Jamaican song that fitted nicely. Nice, a reggae song. And people couldn't believe, what? And the beat was just right. The beat was just right. Let me see these men work with it. Let me see these men work tight. Outstanding. What? And the poses the guy put down and it was amazing.
Well, the other thing is that they were learning from the best. What can I say?
Let me touch this part. Let me touch this part before we move on. There was a fashion show I did with New Horizon Agency in Barbados. We called it a tribute. I said, every year I did a show, a production. I said I have to have a name for it, whatever. And it was a tribute. It was called Fantasy the Tribute. Fantasy the Tribute? What's that all about? But what I did, every section, I made it a tribute to a designer, a singer, a car shop, whatever. So the opening scene of that fashion show, it was a tribute to a car store. Because you know what, one of the girls who modeled the group, I said, I gotta get sponsors from her father. So we gotta find a way to get him involved. So I did a tribute to his store. He said, wow, that's nice. Thank you, sir. Blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, and so I need to get some things from your store to use as a part of the scene. So I spoke to my son, and he got one of his friends, and they had a shine car, right? Nice rims and wheels and stuff. The show was held at a school called Commonwealth School. This school hall was built for Carifesta, I think 74 or whatever. So the hall has a big back door that pushes up, like the stores have these big push-up doors at the back. And the back of that hall, the road reaches the road reaches that doorway. It comes up high. So a car could go on stage. So in my opening scene, Mr. Welshman had a car driving on stage. And the model stepped out the car in the opening scene. And the song that I used, it was Rihanna's song, Shut Up and Drive. Shut up and drive. Remember that song? So those girls were black. The driver dressed like a taxi driver in his black and his hat and everything. When the scene started, the car pulled in. He was like a car on the stage, and the car sent itself to the stage. Then it had a catwalk. So the door opened and the girl started stepping out. And they stood beside the door. Then some guys come from the side of the stage just wearing black pants, tool belts with tools inside. It all came from the store, the car store, advertising it.
Workman.
And the guys popped the trunk and start posing in the car trunk. And you know what I mean? And the song started playing and the girl hitting the catwalk. And they all had steering wheels in their hands and moving. You know the steering wheel that you use, the cover, steering wheel covers? Choreography and creativity out of this world. People say, where does man get this idea from? My God. The crowd was crazy. Onisimo was the bomb.
Oh gosh, I love it. I love it. So I was going to ask you about New Horizon, your company, but
yeah,
pretty much tapped in a little bit to some of the work that you have done. What was the vision though behind New Horizon?
Right. Taking models places. What has been happening in the Caribbean and a lot of groups, they just have the girls are trained, they do a fashion show and that's it. They get some money and that's it. My idea was, if there's a group, we must be going places. We must be seen. We must be known. We must be recognized for the level of work that we're doing. Get the models involved in advertising for various stores, organizations, and that kind of stuff. So they must be able to work or benefit from what they're doing, not just, okay, learning for this, and a show, and that's it. So that's where I decided to, every year, we have to travel. Every year, we must be going somewhere to do a show. And I started to create contact in various Caribbean islands, contacting other groups.
Oh, okay.
When we were deciding to travel, the summertime, the end of year, whatever, that we're preparing from the beginning of the year for that time. So they have something ahead of them, that they're working towards. So you're not just coming to practice and for practice sake, oh no, we have to travel the end of the year. We have 2 shows coming up this year. People are going to book us, blah, 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 the kind of thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Love it. Love it. Loving it. For those of you who joined late, I'm sitting with Oral Welshman. Sit back, hand tight. You'll hear so much more about his wonderful work. This creative is just off the chain. And listen, don't come to me because my language is off the chain. Just leave me alone. His work is remarkable. Really, really remarkable. Let's take another peek at your work, Oral.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose.
Oral.
Yes, Rose. Go right ahead.
Oh, your involvement in the arts, in theater, I mean, it goes back more than 25 years. And dance, you've done it. Choreography, you've done it. Model coaching, you've done it. Modeling, you've done it. Teaching children, you've done it. You've done a lot of work in this small lifetime already, and there's so much more that I know that you're doing. So you were contracted by the Miss Tropical Paradise beauty pageant in Jamaica. And so what did this entail to be contracted by this franchise?
Okay, how it started when I heard about the franchise, and because of having a model agency, I used to train a lot of the girls and guys who go to shows and competitions and stuff like that. So one of our girls wanted to enter. She heard about the Miss Tropical Paradise pageant, and she was an outstanding model, and she still is. She does any model. She wanted to enter the pageant, so I had to contact the coordinator, get all the pageant information, and I was actually taking her to the show. So when I spoke with the coordinator and in conversation, I told her I am a choreographer and producer and stuff. She said, "Oh, okay, nice, that's really good," and so on. I said, and I have a model agency, I run a model agency, and train models for various shows and so on. So she said to me, she said, I have an idea, Oral. You're coming with the girl, the delegate, right? I said, yes. And she said, I would throw this at you. Could you do the production for me for the show? I said, yes, why not? Why not? That's a great idea. I said, in order for me to do the production for me, doing your production, I'm sure I would have to pay my fee as a, not coach, sorry, as the pageant coordinator or assistant coming with the person. We would have to pay for our own stay. The organization only puts up the delegate. So she said, okay, I will put you up, and in order you would do the choreography, work with the girls for me. I said, no problem at all. I said another thing too. I said, could I walk with a few models? I would like to make them a part of the production. She said, great idea, beautiful. Yes, that sounds good. She said, okay, I'll get back to you in the next 2 days about that. Let me talk to the I'm now in discussion with the hotel that's doing I'm hosting the show, the pageant act. She has to coordinate the rooms and so on. So when she spoke to the management of the hotel, telling them that she's bringing a production there for their hotel, in turn, what they did, they give her all the rooms. They give her the rooms free, and she took the show there. So the hotel had a show for their guests. It was Hedonism 3, Montego Bay, Jamaica. A fantastic 5-star hotel. An amazing, amazing place. So that year, I took about 8 models. We did fundraising, cake sale, did that, whatever the things that we did, get our tickets organized and stuff. Organized the delegate, and I took up 8 models that first year. Coordinated the show. This coordinator, she lives in the US. Her name is Marcia Dean, and she lives in the US for many, many years, and she's been doing pageantry for a while. She has done Miss Tropical Paradise in several states. She does the preliminaries, I say, and would do the finals in Jamaica, Montego Bay. So the girls who won the preliminaries from New York, from LA, whatever, Miami, she goes to go different places and do the preliminaries different times. She would then have the finals in Jamaica and having delegates from other countries too coming in. So that first year I met the delegates. It was a Tito. I took the 8 models with my assistant. We went down, we had the accommodation and everything. Worked for the girls, did choreography. We stayed for a week. We went in the Monday before the show was the weekend. We went in on the Monday and the show was on the Sunday. So we stayed all week at that hotel, free, and the rooms were $500 a night.
Wow.
$500 US a night. Expensive. So imagine. So it was like payment, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Getting that whole accommodation for a whole week and doing that work. So that's where it all started. And from then I got the contract every year, going to Jamaica, working with the show. And she provided the tickets for me to go. I would take the delegate, find a ticket for the delegate and the models to go on that tour because they would have fun.
Okay. Nice.
So that we met a lot of other people. They got a lot of photo shoots done. I met photographers. I met designers. She took a lot of photographers from the US that went down for those shows and stuff. I met media people. It was an experience.
So
that's how the pageantry thing started.
Have all of this richness that is in your backpack. This rich experience, these rich experiences. While at Plantation Garden Theater and Almond Beach Resort, you were involved in fashion shows and pageants. In 1999, you founded uni ensemble
The
mother-daughter,
mother-daughter.
and we saw a couple of those pictures just now. And then you relinquished
Yes.
responsibilities as a franchise owner in 2013.
Yeah.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask you, how come you relinquished? But before we talk about your relinquishing the responsibilities, I want to ask you about the uniqueness of uni ensemble mother-daughter pageants. Why? Because there are mixed messages about pageants, period. So
Yeah.
what was unique?
Beautiful.
What was unique about uni
What was
ensemble?
uni ensemble? Right. Uni ensemble means first the name united together. The pageant, the purpose of the pageant is to bring mothers and daughters closer together. Generally, a lot of mothers and daughters, they live in the same house, but their daughters are out in the day, mothers are out at work, they really home together at nights or in a short period, and they've never done something together of that sort, of working together and so on. So Union Some team was one family, one world. So they had to work together. Everything was done together, between the mother and daughter. So the pageant was bringing them together, and rehearsing with mothers and daughters, I could have seen a lot of couples, we call them couples, mothers and daughters, that were not close together. You see mothers who were closer to their daughters, and the mothers who were, they have this little gap going on, you know, and little attitudes and stuff like that. I remember particularly one year, there was a mother and daughter came to the audition, and we spoke to the mom, and then we would speak to them together. The team, we would have a pageant team, and we would speak to the delegates individually in couples. And this little girl, we asked her something, and she was chewing up and carrying on her mother. And I was like, "Excuse me, you need to leave this room now." One of the assistants told me, "Okay, Oral, calm down, don't sit." I said, "You doing what? Embarrassing your mother in front of a team of people? What's wrong with you, girl?" And I started with the woman doctor. I started calling the woman doctor. Anyway, calm down. I didn't. But the child had problems. She had issues. Then you realize that, things were not, she had her own things happening. She had a situation happening with her, with the father and stuff like that. So what happened early in the day affected that at that time. But what I liked about the mother-daughter pageant, we brought couples together. They had to do their introduction together. They had to do their talents together. They had to do their walking together in the casual wear and the evening wear. Everything done together. So training together and walking together, you saw some things out of this world. Some girls called, "Mommy, Mommy, you're making me look shame. Look at you got 2 left foot and you this." All kind of fake situations. And one is telling down as this, but then we understand, we laugh it off. He said, "Okay, remember, is this the first time your mom is walking in heels, or the first time your mother is doing this together? It is not the norm, it is different. We have to get it together." So this is what the rehearsals is about. So if the show is in May, normally the week before Mother's Day, I would audition people December of the year before, or November, start rehearsals December, it goes right through to January, February, March, April. We have 4 months of getting things together, polishing, learning to walk, learning to turn, learning posture, doing their voice training for the introduction, because for the in the introduction, they have to sound like broadcasters. I go, "No, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name so." I said, "No, you have to speak with quality and class." So you know where I'm coming from. So we would have a Toastmaster coming in, working on the speech craft and getting them together, that kind of stuff. And we saw wonders. Oh my gosh, we heard people and mothers speaking a part in the introduction, and daughters speaking a part in the introduction, and then they sing a part together. So that's what it was all about, bringing mothers and daughters together, that unity. And it made a difference in pageantry, in the whole show business in pageantry. Everybody wanted to come to the Mother Daughter show. It was always clean, your talent has to be something of quality, and you either sing together, dance together, do a dramatical piece together on whatever, but it must be something clean and decent. Beautiful work.
And what I'm
I
also
saw a
hearing
video.
too is the
Mm.
building of family values too, because they
Yes, yeah.
actually learn
Hmm.
how to respect each
Hmm.
other, value each other, and that will
Yes.
be taken into the
Hmm.
home now. And that is a real recipe for
Hmm.
development of their relationship as mother-daughter
Yeah. Mm.
after the
Mm.
pageant that could even
Yeah.
enhance relationships of the
Mm.
other people in the house.
Yes, yeah. I saw mothers and daughters come together, really, really worked hard, did amazing work. And at the end of those shows, most of those mothers would say, Oral, when is another show? When is the next show? I can't learn to walk, all this walk and
Yeah.
do nothing. And in turn from that, I started a senior model agency for the mothers.
Mhm.
So I had the older women doing stuff on stage and and performing at various shows and everything like that. So it
Yeah.
develops that. So those women now learn to dress better. They learn to apply makeup properly because all we did classes and all those other things. Because some older women that, oh, I don't wear makeup anymore, I'm too old for this. And I said, no, I said, lady, what's wrong with you? Change that attitude has to change. Not because you just get 2, 3 children, you throw yourself down. We need to change that. And it did happen. A lot of women who are simpler women, who are not into dressing up, who just into a slipper business. I said, no, this pattern is not about slipper. You have to learn to walk in heels, my dear. And it's all about becoming what you were before, or if you were not, becoming a lady. And I saw changes in people, how they dressed, how they applied themselves, how they moved as an individual.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And that's always good
Hmm.
too, to see that your work is making a difference in the life of others.
Yes. Hmm.
Always love.
Making different life.
Um, question about giving up, relinquishing uni ensemble. I was saying ensemble, uni ensemble, the mother daughter.
Yeah.
What's the reason you gave up the pageant?
Because I decided to do a lot of travel and not being in Barbados as within a long period. I would spend months in New York. I would spend months in Guyana because I hooked up with a set of other Guyanese friends, who were all involved in dance, theater, um, drama
Mhm,
in the years gone by, and we formed the Ramadi Musical Theater.
mhm.
That's how that all started.
Okay, and we'll talk about
And
Laura in a minute. Okay, I
yeah,
understand that. Quickly, could you like just list, before we take another
uh-huh.
piece of your work, could you list some of the pageants that you've done?
Okay. I mean, I worked in school pageants. Many school pageants
Okay.
in Barbados. High school pageants. There's oh my God, so many names. There's Miss Big and Beautiful pageant. There was a Miss Big and Beautiful international pageant I worked with. There was a oh my God, there's so many different names and several high schools
Okay.
that have they hire me to work with the students and so on
Okay.
for their shows.
Okay.
And my two franchises that I had, the Mother Daughter and Miss Tropical Paradise. And what I started to, I did both shows together. That's the
Oh,
funny thing. People said, why do you do 2 shows in one? I said, yes. Two
okay.
shows in one opening after the other, and one section after the other. And that kind of thing. So we didn't have much entertainment. One show entertained the other.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Wow. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you joined us late, I'm sitting with Oral Welshman, artistic director, model,
Okay.
model coach, dancer, choreographer, producer, arts teacher, and much more. Let's take a peek at Oral's work, and then I come back and we chat some more before wrapping this up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Gosh, Oral. You have done it all. You have really done a lot for your young looking self.
Thank
Let's
you,
talk.
Rose. Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. Let's talk about Oral Welchman, the model.
Mm,
You talked about it starting when you enter the first competition, fashion show competition,
yes,
Mr. Super Cool, Mr. Super
yes.
Cool, and some of those pictures that we just saw in the slideshow. I mean, I believe that even if you don't want to look like a model, it's in you. You look
Yes,
like a model anyway, you know?
yes, yes.
Um,
It's there, it's there.
it's
Mm.
there, right? So I want to ask you a specific question regarding males in pageants,
Mm.
because that's a trend that has been bubbling, especially in the Caribbean
Yeah,
region. And
yes,
generally speaking, there are mixed messages, voices, tones about pageants, generally speaking.
yes, yes.
But I wonder, what is your take on male pageants?
Um, I think it's good for guys to showcase. It's basically showcasing themselves in another light, in a fashion light, because in a competition, you still have to be able to do the male pageant. You still have to introduce yourself. You still have to speak properly. You still have to carry yourself a certain way. Um, you still have to do a talent according to what the pageant requires. So, and then maybe and some of the male pageants have fitness sections and all of that. So you still have to be a guy that's ready in every way for
Mhm,
the stage,
mhm.
right? And it helps you with confidence and building their self, their self-esteem and so on. So it is a good thing.
Okay,
It
okay.
is a good
I mean, I am not here nor there, about it,
thing.
because it has a place in theater. And once it's
Yeah.
theater,
Other than Mr. World is Mr. Caribbean. These days they're Mr. Caribbean, Mr. World, Mr. This. Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of international male pageants that are happening
yeah,
around the world, and those guys, those shows are the prizes are big prizes.
mhm,
I said, wow, this is good, but
yeah, yeah. Talking
yeah,
about that,
and
I just thought about this. Would you enter a pageant now?
if there's a Mr. Senior or anything, why not? If there's a Mr. Senior or anything, oh, why not? What do you mean? Enter?
I like how you throw the senior in there.
Yeah, it has to be. A little thing I left out. There was in while in Barbados, uh, in the 90s, I was working. I was a supervisor at a supermarket, right? And there was a Hennessy competition because so supermarkets sell these drinks, Hennessy drinks, the gin and whatever the Hennessy is.
Mhm,
And this Hennessy company is an international company working through banks or the company in Barbados. There, they had a Hennessy competition. They had a miss. They wanted to create a Mr. Hennessy. So in each parish there was a competition, a male competition, and the males had to represent the various shops that sell Hennessy. So I entered in the parish of St. Peter because I was working at the supermarket then. I was supervising the supermarket at St. Peter. And I showed business, said, well, no problem, I can do this thing for fun. So it was Mr. Hennessy. We find out the rules and what the rules were. And the preliminary was in that parish. And then the finals was in another parish because all the various parishes had preliminaries.
mhm.
Funny, another guy who was a musician at the plantation, he used to play in the plantation band, tall guy, nice body, nice locks and stuff. He was a musician. He entered the same Mr. Hennessy for one of the parish he lives at.
Mhm.
And he entered through apparently the bar in his area or shop. They asked him, and he said, fine, man, he got good talent. He could play music and he could sing and all of that.
Mhm.
So the preliminaries I did in my parish and I won it. So the finals, now I have to decide what I'm going to do for this finals to win. I got to win this thing. So what I did, I found out what the Hennessy colors are, and we had to do beachwear or swimwear we had to do casual wear, and then we had to do talent, and then we had to do evening wear, which is formal suit. The Hennessy colors is a wine color, like a purple and cream. So for my swimwear scene, I said, wow, so I created a swimwear in the Hennessy color, the wine color and stuff. I said, look, not just a swimwear in the wine color, I gotta come something different. I gotta make this thing outstanding. So I created a beach look. So I bought a beach shoes, they got these beach shoes is wearing the beach, like a little flat sneaker thing. And I got it sprayed into the Hennessy color, the Hennessy logo on it. And I bought a beach board, the beach board that you surf on.
Right, the surfboard.
Right? A surfboard. And I took it to some guys and I got the Hennessy logo put on it, sprayed on it. The spray painting guys. So I said, you know what, my Hennessy swimwear gotta be outstanding. You see, when I hit that stage and I come with a beach board and I create the music that I had, create that beach music, the water in the background and the shh and the river sound. And I step out with my beach board, bam, 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 bam. Strike a pose, put the beach board, the surfboard down on the ground. When I strike a pose, you know, I make sure the Hennessy logo is showing, the camera's catching it and everything. Then I place my board on the ground in style, and then I stepped on the board, and it was like if I was the water to the music. So don't touch me. I said, look, they can't touch me. It made a crowd. And it was an open free show. It was open. It was held in Oyston, area called Oyston, a tourist area where there's a lot of bars and fish vendors, food vendors out in the night. So it was a big open space. This big stage, large stage, lights, sound, everything. So it's hundreds of people. Took away the silver scene, boom, easy gone. Next section of the talent section, I hired 5 drummers from Dancing Africa with. I did an African piece, African warrior. So my shield was a Hennessy shield, created with the African colors, my costume, my African skirt, the body, the arm thing, the head piece. So it was a Hennessy warrior. Licked them up with the talent. Okay, let's go over the African piece. When it comes to the formal suit now, I made a 3-piece scissors tail wine color suit. Because the supermarket that I worked at, the owner of the supermarket, he was a designer as well. So he created the suit for me. Fantastic suit, shoe, color, everything. And then one point, I removed the scissors tail on the catwalk. So when I removed the scissors tail, you know, it became a dinner suit. So the jacket is short. Right. Creativity out of this world. So the men come with ordinary suit and this and who is singing and who normal. No, they can't touch Welshman. I carried away $20,000, boom, right away. I did a Hennessy ad. I was Mr. Hennessy for a year. Fantastic.
Wow.
Hennessy man, boy. This is probably Hennessy man for a whole year.
I gotta drop this nugget. You know, I know that my sister girlfriend, Sybil Chester, who's actually watching, she said she's listening. Love his story on Hennessy Cognac. On Hennessy. She's been official, literally an official with Hennessy. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so she's enjoying this, and I know it would have gotten her attention. So I need to say to our viewers, yes, we're beyond time, but so is Oral Stories. It's really remarkable. I hope that you hang tight with me for a couple more minutes because we need to ask him. I need to ask him more questions overall. So as a model, you have, I'm wondering what efforts you, Oral, have made, if any, to get involved in fashion designing and costume making. I mean, you just talked about some of your ideas for the Mr. Hennessy, right? But I'm wondering if somewhere along the line, you dipped and dabbed with costume design or fashion design or costume making.
Yes, in the 80s, I did some designing of my own. I couldn't sew. I never sewed anything. I did sketches, and for several schools. I even did a sketch for Miss Diana pageant, where the girl that I sketched for, she was first runner-up. Yes. Her name. I'm off with names. I'm sure she hears this and she said, "Oh, you can't remember my name." I I have her on Facebook.
Well,
She went to.
as a senior, you will be
I
forgiven.
forget. I will also forget.
And the
Yes,
reason
she
I
won.
ask that too is because you
Mhm.
mentioned, some of the ideas that you had for Mr. Hennessy. And then
Yeah.
generally speaking, as a creative myself, when you have
Mm.
an idea, it's not just about the dance, or it's not just about what the particular art piece is about, artistic expression is about. You have to see the whole
Yes.
picture. So you might get
Yeah.
involved in what the background would be like, what color lights you will want, what kind
Yes.
of
Mhm.
design on a particular costume you would want,
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
additions you need to be put on the costumes, and you have to get involved
Even
from that.
even setting the stage setting,
Yes.
because sitting back quickly to my mother-daughter pageants, whenever I did a show every year, the stage set was different. The theme was different.
Yeah.
So I remember one year I was in the audience and a woman said, she comes to the show every year, she said, this man's show has got something every year. It got some kind of different opening, some kind of theme, and that pulled people. I
Mhm.
remember one year was outstanding. I had the opening scene, they were all flight attendants,
Mhm.
the mothers and daughters. They're flight attendants from
Wow.
various countries
Mhm.
representing various airlines around the world. There
Mhm.
was Air India, there was Air Canada, there was British Airways, there was Caribbean Airline. So
Yeah.
every couple dressed differently, that kind of taste. The
Uh-huh.
opening scene was the bomb. I had opening video. You know how the guys who conduct the plane and stuff
Uh-huh.
before it
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
the plantation has two large screens at the side, and
Mhm.
where we had the planes, I had my son do the video stuff, and the planes coming, you see the planes
Coming.
landing and all
Mhm.
coming in, and the guy on stage conducting and stuff like that. As the plane
Yeah.
landing, you hear the plane sound, it's full airport works.
Yeah.
When you fly 347 is just arrived in Barbados. Ladies and gentlemen, full works.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't do all the voiceover and all that, I do all the voiceover. Trust me. I
Love it.
see, I think of people, I did all of this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, flight 347 has just arrived in Barbados from London. Da, 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 whatever, whatever, whatever.
Okay, so
And then the music
stick a
changed. And
pin.
then,
Stick a pin. You
uh,
just said
yes.
you've done voiceovers, you just imitated one of the things that you've done, and you wanted to be an announcer. You're an announcer already. Are you
Yes.
kidding? You're a broadcaster already. Well,
Yes.
let me say
The
this.
only
Let
thing
me
I
ask
didn't qualify, I'm an unqualified announcer.
eh,
I didn't
I
study
just I
fully, but
just made you qualified.
yeah. Mhm.
I just made you qualified.
Yes, yes. Thank you,
So
thank you, thank
listen,
you, thank you.
you have worn the title of artistic director for many shows, production,
Yes.
uh, the director, producer, whatever you're called in the particular space
Mhm.
when you're involved in a show and running it in the theater. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, you're the artistic director of Laramide Musical Theater of New York.
Yes.
Um, Tell
Yes.
us quickly about this company. I mean, what it does. What does it?
Oh,
What is the musical about?
okay. The Ramadi Musical Theater, we are a set of artists who came together who started this company. Um, what we did, we brought musical theater to Guyana because Guyana had drama, dance, singing all separated and not really musical theater. The only musical theater production they had was all the way in the 80s when they had something with Burnham shows that I think Willie Bishop did and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So we never really had a musical theater company or musical theater shows happening. So we brought musical theater to Guyana. What we did, Lance, who's our director, he writes. He's a librettist. He writes the stuff.
Mhm. That's Lance
The
North,
show
right?
we did
He was
here,
just awarded for
Lance North, yeah,
GCA, Ghana Cultural Association. Yeah.
yes, Lance North.
Mhm.
Uh, Joy de Viv. Joy de Viv means the joy of life. And he wrote that production, and we came with a few performers from New York, and we hired the dancers and other singers from Guyana to do that production. That first production was at the Pegasus Hotel in 2015. So when we arrived, I came in early and I did the advertising and stuff. We met a few singers who we knew we wanted to work with.
Mhm.
I saw Charmaine at a jazz session she does every Friday
You
at
mean
a
Charmaine
club.
Blackman?
Sharon Blackman in Rock Street. So everybody, a lot of people known her as a calypsonian, but she has a great jazz voice. So
Mhm.
myself and Lance saw her there and said, you know what? We're going to talk to her about doing this. The musical we had, it was about most of the music was jazz music, the kind of, and jazz singing and jazz dancing as well. So we spoke to her and she said yes, she agreed, and she did it. And we brought all our costumes down for the singers, for the dancers. We put everything together and had that production. So we had about a 2 month training rehearsal. We rehearsed at the Pegasus, and the first show was at the Pegasus. They were one of our sponsors as well. And that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. We had them singing and dancing and acting,
I
and
bet.
a lot of those dancers were from Classic Dance Company, which
Mhm,
is
mhm.
Clive, Clive, or
Clive Cromwell. Yep.
Classic people we hired.
Yeah.
Yes. And
You know,
he did a lot of musicals too
oh,
in
yes,
his show. So they
yes,
had a kind of experience.
yes.
He did musicals in his show.
I'm glad that you
Mhm.
mentioned, I'm glad that you mentioned Clive, because the funny thing is, when you were talking about
Mhm.
how your pageants for the mother-daughter Unisam would unfold,
Mhm.
I thought about the spectacle that Classic Dance Company brings with them
Did. Mhm. Yeah.
when they had shows under
Mhm.
Clive Prowell. Man, you
And
guys are so talented.
funny, whenever I come to Guyana in between those years and Clyde know I'm here, he said, okay, what are you here? You need to do some work with my group. And I said, no problem at all. I will go do some work with them and put in a choreography, do a
Yeah,
little workshop. He always made sure that I did work with them.
yeah,
Clyde
yeah.
always made sure, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that though, because gone are the days when you work in a bubble. You over here with your group, the other person over there.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
can't
we need
work.
to share our experiences.
It can't work.
And that's what I need to do.
Yep,
We need, as artists, we need not to die with our talents. We need to share our experiences and
yep,
give it to others.
yep. Come together. Come together.
Mhm.
Come together.
So that's what Laramidi did. And at Laramidi, we did workshops in schools
Mhm.
every August. We
Uh-huh.
taught musical theater in Georgetown. We did musical theater in Berbice and found some beautiful voices in Berbice and
Wow.
dancers and put together stuff in 1 week of workshop.
Mhm,
Had a production at the end of the workshop. People, sometimes parents who went to those graduations
mhm.
after the week in Berbice, they couldn't believe what they saw. In 1 week, they sit and learn all of this. I said, yes, yeah,
Wow.
you
Nice.
got to work with them. They got we did voice in a certain amount of time, singing in a certain amount of time,
Mhm.
dance in a certain amount of time. But the workshops were like all day,
Yeah,
from 9 in the morning to 4 or 3 in the afternoon
nice.
for the entire
And
school.
and and it's good that children are able to get that exposure too, with
Mhm.
all the craziness that children experience. Is good to know
Yes.
that the Ramadi Musical Theater is doing their community service, not just saying
Yeah.
and but really being a part of. So we're getting ready to wrap this up. Believe it or not, I cannot believe it, but I have
Yes.
to believe it that we're wrapping up. Your contribution to the arts, Oral, your contribution has been recognized uh,
Thank
most
you. Thank you so much.
mostly in Barbados by the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts. And I know that you've gotten an award by the DDA Foundation and for
Yes.
your work with the children. And I know that as a Guyanese, fellow artists have recognized you for what you have done, for what you bring, and for your work, not just in Guyana, but in
All over
Barbados.
Guyana, yeah.
And I can speak for New York
Mhm.
because I don't know if you remember, 1 year you were a part of Folk Feet in the Street. Remember
Yeah.
Guyana Cultural
Yes, that's
Association
so true.
production? You were there with the Triangle Man as we were working
Yeah,
to promote. That was
yeah, yeah.
great to
That was
get.
fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
I
it was.
enjoyed
I
that.
remember. So I want to say to you, for everyone to hear, thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your continuous work, your unselfish work, and for
Thank you
being
too. Thank you so much for having me.
work.
Thank you so much for having me too.
Yeah, you're welcome, welcome, welcome. I have to ask you before we close though, what does the future hold for Oral Welshman, this young creative who already has
Young creative
over
mind.
25 years in the
Yes.
artistic arena. What does the future
I
hold?
hope to work. I hope to be working for the next 25 years in musical theater around the region and world. That's my vision. I have to get out there.
Like,
Definitely.
love, like and love it, like and love it.
Thank you.
So thank you, Oral. Thank you for
Thank you to
passing
Rose.
by
Thank you to. Thank you. Thank you.
and having this
And thanks
candid
for having me.
conversation. Yes, my pleasure. And I'm sure when I say my pleasure, I'm talking about the pleasure also for our viewers who are with us. So
Yes.
as I say, thank you to Oral, my guest for today, and to you viewers for joining us on Arts, Culture, and Sing in Between. I must acknowledge the people who helped me do this. I'm not doing this by myself. Yes, it is my
Yes.
program, but I have Claire Goring who helps me every week with the flyer.
Say hello to Claire. Hello to Claire. Say
Yes,
hello to Claire and
plus
everyone
some
in
other
New York.
stuff she helps with. Marcia Gordon.
Effective team. Say hello to them for me.
Yes, I'm sure that, they'll see some
Mhm.
of this and hear some of this. And Marcia
Yes.
Gordon, who's been instrumental in working on the YouTube channel that is up and running. Please check it out. Yasuna Ryan, who's helped with building the website. Please go to roseoctober.com. The YouTube is Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between. It's actually the name of the program.
Yes.
However, the website is roseoctober.com. So please check it out. Dr. Raul Manzano for doing the logo, hand painting that rose. It's authentic. It's not Photoshop. He hand painted it. He is my colleague who is a professional artist. Raul De Silver, the technical engineer who was instrumental in jump-starting this program on the Zoom platform. Currently, Samuel Williams has taken over from Raul, and Samuel is the young creative to watch who's behind this program. Samuel, thank you very much. These individuals are special because they have unselfishly continued to give of themselves. So Claire, Marcia, Yash, Dr. Manzano, Raul, and Sammy, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate you all. To all of you who continue to support us by joining Arts, Culture, and Sing in Between on Sundays from 3 to 5, we thank you. We encourage you to tell a friend, like our Facebook page, like the YouTube page, subscribe to it, visit the website, roseoctober.com. And on that note, I say to you, all the best for a productive week, as I'm hopeful that your year is off to the start that you want for yourself. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.